rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. All my Whiskey Warrior P1s out there, as well as any new folks that might be listening. And no, Palms, I am live. This is not Memorex. Sorry. But no, you got the real deal right now, right here. And, well, Ms. T of Tech seems to be skirting the thunder in her neck of the woods. That's Texas, southern Texas. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things started off here. Tonight, the individual who is leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is definitely not Karen. So definitely not Karen is going to lead us. And if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and let's follow along with definitely not Karen in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, definitely not Karen, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing or reciting, whichever way you want to do it, the pledge in your style, and then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, and send that email off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. All right. And tonight's headline sponsor is theflagshirt.com. I wear their shirts on almost every show that I have. I am a fan of their fantastic men's cotton polos. They have American-themed colors, and the colors are brilliant. The fit is comfortable and great. You really ought to go check it out. Go to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their offerings, men's, women's, kids, accessories. And right now, they are highlighting their Made in the USA collection. Okay? The Made in the USA collection. So support American workers. Also, if you go to theflagshirt.com, you'll be supporting a veteran-owned, veteran-operated organization as well. But you can head on over to theflagshirt.com, click on their shop collection button in the very front page where it says support American workers, and you'll be taken right to their Made in the USA collection. All those styles, shirts and styles, and whatever else is made in the USA. So you can peruse that as well as many of their other products and outfits as well. If you order $75 or more of their product, they will give you free shipping. But I know not everybody wants to order or even can order $75 or more of product. And so I'm going to help you out, folks. I'm going to help you out because of the fact that I have a link here that you can go and take a look. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and you will be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo box at theflagshirt.com in their checkout and get $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. Take that coupon code that you are presented with, copy and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you'll get $5 off your order. Once again, go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Well, I'm glad that Sean is excited about his peanut butter cupcakes. Hopefully he'll get excited a little bit later on in the program as well for something before we take off tonight. So, oh, Nana of JJS is diving into the Four Roses small batch. Nice. All right. Okay. So before I get into tonight's topic, I wanted to play something for you. Now, first of all, I'm just going to tell you, I mean, I've made this comment on the program a lot. I love Scott Jennings. Watching Scott Jennings deal with the roundtable panels of leftist lunatics on CNN is entertaining. It's probably the only good reason to actually watch CNN. But that being the case and being said, if he decides to run for office, I am going to miss him. Rumor has it that he is just waiting for Trump's endorsement before he throws his hat into the ring. Now, I can't remember if it's for senator. I think it's for senator. I think he's trying or going to try and go for Mitch McConnell, Mitch the Turtle's seat in Kentucky. Yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting if he gets Trump's endorsement. But until then, we're at least entertained by his highly combative, yet very incisive or insightful repartee with the leftists on CNN. Well, in this particular case, the video that I'm about to show you, unfortunately, all he did in this case was he just scratched the surface with a match and kind of lit the fuse, let's say, for basically a couple of leftists going at each other. I'm sure he actually got just a massive kick out of this, because I know I did when I was watching the video. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a listen really quickly here to this, and just enjoy it.
Years of neglect and letting people walk into here without any process at all, and now you're trying to gum up the works to keep them here.
A lot of them came in. A lot of them came in with parole. A lot of them came in.
CNN polling shows 54% of Americans want Mr.
November polling
Garcia
showed Donald
back.
Trump won the
That's
election.
CNN polling.
The
public is shifting.
We
are a sovereign nation, and you cannot just come into our country illegally whenever the heck you want, because we can't do it to any other country on the face of this earth.
Asylum is a legal right.
If you come in illegally, you have to leave. Americans are tired of that. We do not have unlimited resources.
You know who was here illegally with a deportation order? Marco Rubio's grandfather.
All right,
We're not talking about Marco Rubio.
Oh, now we're not? Now that's not relevant?
It's not
relevant. No, I'm talking about Marco Rubio because Marco Rubio used to be an advocate for TPS for Venezuelans, and Marco Rubio used to be an advocate for Nicaraguans and Cubans. No, I know you're not.
If you come to this country illegally, you are going home. Simple as that. We do not have unlimited resources.
I think a lot of Americans
to take care of other people.
There's a hell of a lot of people, other than the black people who were brought here as slaves, who came to this country illegally.
They're not the same as black people who were brought here against our will.
That's exactly what I just said. I said there is a lot of people
There's a big difference. There is a big difference.
That's exactly what I just said. That's exactly what I just said, Sir Michael. You can act indignant. That's exactly what I just said.
Let me just share, Michael.
Other than the black
Anna and share, Michael.
There are a lot of people from many
Michael, I think you actually misheard what
illegally.
I think you misheard what she said.
No, he purposely misheard it.
She said.
I purposely misheard it. So now you're in my
Share,
brain.
Michael, listen to me for just a second.
Is that where we're going?
Share, Michael.
I would say I have advocated for black people my entire life. life would say something like that.
Because you've advocated for black people, great, congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black, you're not.
Okay, Sharon Michael.
That's right. I'm Latino, and my people are being racially profiled.
It is.
And do I have to remind you the history of my people?
Sharon,
do you want to go there?
No, I don't.
Do you really want to go
we're
there?
going to go to break. Raul, we're going to go to break. Raul Reyes, thank you very much for joining us. Everybody else, hang tight.
History was not
we'll be right back.
When I was studying history, like the president.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what happens, folks. That's what happens, honestly, when you sit there and you put yourself into a bucket and get offended, which essentially, I mean, that's what happened, is you had two liberal leftists who got offended over the fact that one was trying to say that they were better than the other. The fact is, neither one of them were slaves. Neither one of them apparently are illegal. So what is the whole point here? I mean, outside of just entertainment. They just kind of went at each other, and I just found that entertaining, funny, a laugh. But anyway, Ana Navarro is a moron. She tried to draw during that exchange. You didn't hear all the way through everything because there was a lot going on there, but she tried to draw parallels between slaves and the other illegal aliens who basically walked across the border. Yeah, that didn't go over very well, which is, yeah. Anyway, they also need to understand too, which, honestly, I'm just saying, honestly, these people need to understand, and even with the number of Africans that were brought here through the slave trade, for whatever reason, these people seem to forget that the Irish and Italians, but more specifically the Irish, were also thrown into slavery. There were just as many, if not more, white slaves as there were black slaves that were brought, that were brought to this United States. You could say the exact same thing about the Chinese who came here and worked on all of our railroads in the West. Many of them many of them died doing the work. And when they would die, it would just be, whatever, and send them on down. These people need to understand that regardless of where you came from or whatever, you're here now. You're in a great country now. Dwelling on the past like this is not going to do anything for us in the future. And sitting here and talking about it, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, yes, if you come here illegally, regardless of who you are, what your skin color is, what country you came from, if you come here illegally, you should get sent back home. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. That's the way our laws are written. And are we a nation of laws or are we not? Anyway, well, let the two of them keep going on. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, there's some more stuff with regards to like Biden, but we've already kind of covered a lot of that, so I'm just going to go ahead and just continue on. Anyway, it's fun to watch the sparks fly sometimes, and of course it gets even better when it's two leftists going at each other. Both of them trying to virtue signal over everything, by the way. Trying to show that, hey, I'm more superior than you, which is part of the problem, honestly. Which is part of the problem. Sitting there and thinking that you're morally superior or any other kind of superior to another human is just asinine. And that's exactly what these leftists do all the time. You ever sit there and talk to them, they always sit there and focus on things like, oh, well, I'm highly educated. Oh, really? Education, especially nowadays, just means you're indoctrinated by all of this. So, anyway. All right. I'm being told by Bonnie that Andy Barr is actually the one being backed by Trump for McConnell's seat. So maybe Scott Jennings is staying where he is at CNN. I just heard a rumor. It was a rumor. That's why. I didn't really think anything of it, but I just was hearing a rumor about it. Anyway. Yeah. But he's got it right. Forced transport is in no way similar to illegal entry. Exactly. All right. Well, Trump made or stated something today. He has actually asked the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, to go ahead and revoke Harvard University's tax-exempt status. Now, I'm just going to put this forth and forward to pretty much anybody with regards to this. Yeah, this is right. This is right and proper. Because they are not, Harvard itself is not upholding our laws with regards to, anti-Semitism in particular. But also they consistently have done things like racial profiling, trying to like cut out Asians from their acceptance. They just went through SCOTUS to get that slapped, and so on and so forth. So the reason why is that the Ivy League school's failure to address anti-Semitism on campus is grounds for losing its 501c3 status, sources have said. So, let's see. Fox News, a Harvard University spokesperson told Fox News Digital on Friday, quote, "The government has long exempted universities from taxes in order to support their educational mission. The tax exemption means that more of every dollar can go towards scholarships for students, life-saving and life-enhancing medical research, and technological advancements that drive economic growth. There is no legal basis to rescind Harvard's tax-exempt status," noting that Harvard has provided more than $749 million in financial aid during fiscal year 2024. Well, when you're sitting on a endowment of $50+ billion, I don't think it really matters whether or not you get public funds. I mean, you probably shouldn't be getting public funds if you've got that much of an endowment. Anyway, the spokesperson added that such an unprecedented action would endanger our ability to carry out our educational mission. It would result in diminished financial aid for students. Really? Again, 50+ billion, not million, billion with a B. Sorry, I'm being a little emphatical with that B. Abandonment of critical medical research programs. Yeah, those should all be privately funded anyway. And lost opportunities for innovation, which is a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of crap. So the thing about it is that a lot of people don't seem to understand about these universities is that they have been sitting there on all kinds of money ever since the government decided to get into the student loan program. The whole idea of guaranteeing the student loans through the government is mainly just to make sure that people can get these loans. But the problem is that the universities found essentially an open policy to be able to just have anybody come through. Do you know universities never used to have things like degrees in basket weaving or gender studies, or, you had the liberal arts degree. The liberal arts degree has been around for decades. But the fact of the matter is that even with that generic degree, they didn't have a whole bunch of these, what are considered to be degrees that are just basically worthless out in the real world. And when you start tying money coming in to actual programs that will get these people or these individuals who go through universities actually hired, when you have, the whole purpose of education, of course, is to better society. It's not to necessarily sit here and just rake in cash. And Buddy, of course, points out on Rumble, which this is exactly true. He says the word education doesn't appear in the Constitution. And that is correct. There is no federally mandated responsibility. There is no constitutionally mandated responsibility for the federal government to have anything to do with education. It wasn't even a thought. In fact, the whole idea of the Secretary of Education didn't come around until Andrew Jackson decided to create the position in his cabinet, and then once he was done, was actually abolished and didn't get resurrected until Jimmy Carter. There is absolutely zero constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government when it comes to education. Education should be completely privately funded. Now, if you want to keep them with tax-exempt status, okay, fine. You could look at universities in a similar light, maybe not exact, but a similar light as you do churches, for an example. But the fact of the matter is that if the university does break the law, that should be a consequence, which is essentially, if you've broken the civil rights laws in this country, meaning that everybody is supposed to be treated exactly the same, regardless of skin color, race, creed, sexual orientation, whatever other things that they've tacked on to that Civil Rights Act, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. But the point is that if you've broken the law, you should lose that tax-exempt status. So, anyway. Yeah. Now, another organization that Trump has, we'll call it, set his sights on, and this is another one that has no reason for having any public funding going to it. Trump on Thursday, that was yesterday, took a step by issuing an executive order to end the taxpayer subsidization of national public radio and the public broadcasting service. Folks, the media is supposed to not be an arm of government. They are not supposed to be getting government money. They are supposed to be the public's watchdogs over the flock of sheep to make sure that the wolves, meaning government, don't take advantage of us. That's the point of a free press. The press cannot be in bed with the government no matter what. This was the whole concept, and our founding fathers agreed on it. This is part of the reason why the First Amendment even exists, with the idea that the press shall be free and that government can't do anything to stop the press. And yet, here we have two organizations, National Public Radio and Public Broadcasting Service, that are literally being funded by taxpayer dollars. Not to mention the fact, as Bonnie points out, PBS also does separate fundraising every year and also has corporate backing. So there is absolutely no reason why they should even be receiving public taxpayer funds. Now, you could make an argument for it, provided that they were actually neutral. But they're not. NPR is staunchly left-wing, Democrat. PBS is mostly left-wing, Democrat. I mean, honestly, if they had a organization that could be the press, I mean, you could have, a government press organization. Sure, you could do that if you wanted. But it would have to have clear notice that it was 100% middle of the road. That there was nothing else in terms of, we're not providing you with any type of opinion or bias. We are providing you with simple facts, as if that could be the case. Yeah. So anyway, I'm actually applauding this move. I think this is long overdue. And it also makes it, by the way, to where it's a more of a free-for-all when it comes to the press. I mean, realistically, the vast majority of the mainstream media right now is Democrat-funded leftist lunatics running the ships in those cases. So we don't really have, outside of the independent media, we don't really have a fourth wall, per se, a fourth watchdog of government right now, which is part of the reason why we're in the position that we're in. So... anyway, so in April, the White House released a report delineating its grievances to the two nonprofit public broadcasting organizations, suggesting eliminating taxpayer funding for them. The report stated, for years, American taxpayers have been on the hook for subsidizing NPR and the PBS, which spread radical woke propaganda disguised as news. As POTUS has said, funding their biased content is a waste. Well, it's also, again, not in the Constitution, outside of the fact that the freedom of the press is a specified right of the people that is a hands-off of the government. So, yeah. Anyway. The executive order states, unlike in 1967 when Corporation of Public Broadcasting was established, today the media landscape is filled with abundant, diverse, and innovative news options. Government funding of news media in this environment is not only outdated and unnecessary, but corrosive to the appearance of journalistic independence. At the very least, Americans have the right to expect that if their tax dollars fund public broadcasting at all, they fund only fair, accurate, unbiased, and nonpartisan news coverage. No media outlet has a constitutional right to taxpayer subsidies, and that right there is the case and the reason. He continued on and says, and the government is entitled to determine which categories of activities to subsidize. He is right. There is nothing in the Constitution that even talks about anything in... Now, my listeners over on Rumble are sitting here pulling out and dating themselves, I'll be honest. Pulling out all the names of the shows that used to show up on PBS. Things like Electric Company, Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, Romper Room, Captain Kangaroo. Yeah, I grew up on all of that stuff as well. I even grew up, the whole concept of things like Schoolhouse Rock was just absolutely fantastic. I still think of things like Conjunction Junction, which is a good one. And the old, I'm just a Bill, just a lonely old Bill, just sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yeah, you remember that one too, where they talked about how government works. Now, all of that, I can tell you, I guess Captain Kangaroo wasn't on PBS. Anyway, now all I can tell you is that if they wanted to continue that kind of, Schoolhouse Rock, well, Schoolhouse Rock, I actually think was part of NBC and ABC or something. I think, I can't recall. It's because one of them had the thing called The More You Know, which I think was a star that was, I think it was ABC. But anyway, I digress. But if you wanted to sit and do things like Schoolhouse Rock or, the junction, and the hooking up trains and phrases and or hooking up words and phrases and clauses, whatever kind of stuff. You want to do that kind of stuff. Okay, I could see it. You want to have unbiased news, which is almost, it's pretty hard to do. But if you want to have unbiased news and unbiased reporting, sure. But that's not what happened. That's not what has occurred here. And this definitely isn't a free press or a separated press. It's not. Anyway. So, yeah, definitely is a bit of a problem. Yeah. And when you have people like Catherine Marr in 2021 who left her position as CEO and executive director of Wikimedia, later to become the CEO of NPR, who's sitting there not talking about the truth, but talking about just finding common ground and getting things done. Yeah. That's not a good fit for a independent or supposedly an independent governmental nonpartisan organization. Yeah, exactly. So, in April of 2024, former NPR editor Uri, whatever that is, Berliner, published an essay in which he admitted, quote, an open-minded spirit no longer exists within NPR, and now predictively we don't have an audience that actually reflects America. At NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. I got something on him a little bit later. But here's the thing. I mean, NPR was essentially created to combat what was deemed to be conservative talk radio, headed by none other than the great and unfortunately late Rush Limbaugh. And because Rush Limbaugh revitalized AM radio, turned it into conservative talk radio, NPR was created and designed from the inside to be a combative force to conservative talk radio, and it failed because not many people actually listened to NPR for many, many years. So this kind of movement, this type of action, I think is perfect because, again, it doesn't fit with what the federal government should be focused on, and what the federal government should be focused on is the items that are in Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Anything else falls to the 10th Amendment. So, there you go. Okay. So, Coco D, insert name here. Just answer me in the chat. Do I need to do it now? Or can he wait? Anyway. All right. Well, Trump pushed out a couple of other proposals this week. One of them I am not really all that happy with, nor am I in agreement with. Okay, we'll make sure to do that. So Trump put out a proposal. And before I get into this, let me just say that our holidays for the military there's 4 of them, okay? And each one signifies a special group of individuals with our military with military backgrounds. First one, of course, is Memorial Day. Memorial Day is designed for those who have given their lives in defense of this country. Then you have Armed Forces Day, which is a holiday, although it's often skipped. Not very many people are aware of when the date is, but there's the Armed Forces Day, which is designated specifically for people who are currently serving in the armed forces. And I guess it's just 3. I said 4, but it's actually 3. And the third one is for those who are still living with us, but yet are separated from the service. That, my friends, is Veterans Day. Well, Trump is proposing that we actually rename Veterans Day to, quote, Victory Day for World War I. And then he wants to add a new World War II holiday. I have a problem with this. And the reason why I have a problem with this is because of 2 reasons. One, we already have 3 very specific and wide-ranging categories for our military services. The people who have died for the country, the people who served and yet are still living but no longer serving active, and the ones that are actively serving. Why would anybody seem to think that World War I needs its own separate holiday, the same way that World War II would need its own separate holiday? I mean, we already talk about D-Day and everything else for World War II. I'm not exactly sure where Trump is going with this. Because again, as I said, we've already got 3 blanket coverings for this. If you want World War I and World War II, most, if not all of those people, especially for World War I, we're losing our World War II veterans, okay? We're losing our World War II veterans, but pretty much everybody who was a part of World War I is gone. So they moved from Veterans Day over to Memorial Day. That's when you remember and memorialize those who died in World War I, World War II, any of these other wars that we've had, okay? That's when you memorialize them. They gave their life for this country. Anyone who is still living and has served but separated, they fall into the veterans category. And they need to have their own day. And here's part of the reason why I'm proposing this, because one of the reasons why Veterans Day is so important, think about all the people that came back from Vietnam. We still have a lot of Vietnam veterans who are alive today. Now, the Memorial Day celebration is for those that died, okay? But here we have Veterans Day, which anyone who served in Vietnam and is still alive today would essentially get cleared off the map by renaming Veterans Day. Think about that for a second. Or, better yet, even those in the Korean conflict. which technically wasn't even a war, it was a police action, but still. This whole idea of renaming Veterans Day, I think, is the wrong angle for Trump to go. And I've told you that if I disagree with Trump, I'm going to stand up on this program and I am going to say something. I don't think he should do it. If he wants to have a quote-unquote victory day, okay, great. Then create one, just like you're adding a new World War II holiday. Go ahead and add those holidays. But leave Veterans Day alone. It is for thanking those people who have gone off to war or served in whatever capacity within the military services, to thank them for their services. The ones that are still here on this earth. Not necessarily specifically tied to any specific conflict. This isn't a winner, in my mind. This isn't the winner. And it should be left alone. And again, I don't know if he's just thinking about this or what, but yeah. So here he did this post, okay? And he essentially used Truth Social to basically float this idea. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't think too many people else would. I understand he framed what he said on Truth as kind of the idea that, hey, I want to honor all of our military, but what he doesn't seem to, or what he seems to fail to grasp, now I could be wrong on this, but he seems to fail to grasp that we already have 3 holidays that honor our military. Why not just elevate those 3? Elevate them. Well, Memorial Day is already elevated. Veterans Day is somewhat elevated. Not everybody gets the day off. But for Armed Forces Day, hardly anybody even knows it exists. So go ahead and, if you want to honor the military, just honor them by elevating the 3 days that we already have. So, yeah. Anyway. The second Trump proposal that got floated, and this one I am very much in favor of. And I think anybody who has some intelligence will be in favor of it too. Here in the Epoch Times, Trump proposes cutting government spending by $163 billion in a new budget plan. Fantastic. Bravo. Now, notice, okay, that we are starting to move on from the idea of Doge, because Doge, by the way, is only temporary. Anything that the president does to stop or suspend payments or monies going out is only temporary. We have to get Congress involved in order to make any of these kinds of things permanent. And so by Trump proposing a new budget plan, I think is a fantastic way to bridge the gap between what Trump has been doing and what Doge has been doing, and bringing in the people who actually have the power of the purse, which is our Congress and our congressional leaders, and get them to start making these cuts permanent. So the budget apparently prioritizes dismantling what is called a weaponized federal bureaucracy and is eliminating funding for progressive initiatives. I recommend to you, President Trump, I know you probably never even heard of me, never even heard of this program, but I recommend to you to do one thing and one thing only. And that is look at the Constitution. Start with what fits within Article 1, Section 8. Anything outside of Article 1, Section 8 and the enumerated responsibilities of the federal government contained within that the Congress is supposed to be legislating on, anything that doesn't fall into those categories, immediately cut in accordance with the 10th Amendment. That's what you should do. So he unveiled this on Friday, this budget blueprint that calls for slashing federal spending on key non-defense programs by $163 billion, targeting things like renewable energy, education, and foreign aid. Oh, goodness, all three of those items are not in Article 1, Section 8. Yeah. The plan that he unveiled calls for a 23% reduction in non-defense discretionary spending from fiscal year 2025 levels, bringing the total down to $557 billion. The proposal does not affect defense, Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, but would significantly reduce fundings to agencies such as the EPA, the Energy Department, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Yep, all of those three don't show up in Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution. So the White House's skinny budget outlines proposed spending for fiscal year 2026, which begins October 1st. While largely symbolic, it offers a clear view of the president's political and fiscal priorities. I am all for this. I am a happy camper if he can get this thing through, let me tell you. And I actually think it should go even higher than that. But hey, I'll take what I can get in the beginning anyway. So, yeah. The budget apparently has the lowest amount of non-defense spending since 2017 and the lowest since 2000 when adjusted for inflation, according to a senior OMB official, which is the Office of Management and Budget, said during a conference call with it. So, bravo. Bravo, President Trump. Please get Congress involved and let's get this done. Let's get these things signed off. Let's get rid of anything that, again, doesn't fall within Article 1, Section 8, and therefore falls to the 10th Amendment and should be left out of the federal government completely. Completely. All right. Well, we have been talking, we're past first quarter, the fiscal first quarter, and we have been told that our first quarter GDP shrank a little bit by 0.3. Now, a lot of people have been commenting about that and been saying, oh, that's a sign that the economy is getting worse. Except there's only one problem. There's other signs that are showing that the economy is not getting worse. That things are getting strong still. One of them happens to be the U.S. payroll jobs report. So the U.S. payroll growth here in CNBC, yes, that's right, it's a left-leaning organization. The U.S. payroll growth pulls out a total of 177,000 in April, and that defied the expectation. Now, this is non-farm payrolls. Increased by a seasonally adjusted 177,000 for the month. And I'll be honest with you, I bet that thing doesn't get revised down in like 3 months. Anyway, the employment rate, unfortunately, has stayed at 4.2. That was expected, indicating that the labor market is actually holding relatively stable. So all of this idea of like the GDP growth and these kinds of things that were indicating that, oh my gosh, we may be headed toward trouble. The same thing with the stock market. As I told you, Scott Bessent has been saying and presented the proper information and basically said, well, yeah, the stock market went up and down, up and down, up and down in April, but the general trend of it was upward. throughout the month, especially at the tail end of the month. So that's an indicator that things are not as bad as what the mainstream media wants you to believe. That although certain things are being affected, they're not entirely. The economy in its entirety is not being affected, such as what happened during the Biden administration. You're not seeing things like job losses and full-time jobs just disappearing and half-time jobs being the only jobs that are being counted, and having months under the Biden administration where the government is the only entity that actually increased in jobs, because that's what Biden was attempting to do. Well, technically the Biden administration, because let's face it, Biden was non compos mentis. But I digress. The Biden administration was expanding or trying to hold up the GDP numbers by expanding government over and over and over again. This is not the case here. In fact, we've actually shrunken government, thanks to Doge and many ex-former federal employees that took and have taken their quote-unquote retirement papers and walking papers, the 6-month severance or whatever it was that Donald Trump handed them. So, and also, just as another indication that the economy may not be in the dire straits that the mainstream media wants you to believe, average hourly earnings rose a slight bit at 0.2%. It was below the 0.3% forecast, but the annual rate went to 3.8%, which was just slightly higher or slightly less than expected also. So we're holding steady, even with all of the inconsistencies, let's say, with the whole tariff idea and the supposed tariff wars that are starting to occur, especially those with China. China, for all of its conversations that they've had where they've sit there and they say over and over and over again that, oh, no, we're not talking to the Trump administration. We're not trying to work out a deal. All of these things that have been going through the mainstream media and everything else, discussing stuff, the whole China thing. Oh, my gosh, nothing's happening on China. China's tariffing us even more. Well, guess what? China does actually feel the pain. Here in the Daily Wire, China feels the pain and exempts $40 billion worth of U.S. imports from their own tariffs. See, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent actually has it right. He basically said that the trade war with China is not sustainable on the Chinese side. Because once again, as I've told you before, all of these countries that have trade deficits with us, they need us to survive. China is once again quietly exempting numerous U.S. imports from its retaliatory tariff on American goods, a sign that the Chinese economy is actually taking a hit with the trade war with the Trump administration. Now, this is Bloomberg reporting this, a left-wing outlet. And they reported that today. A list that is circulating among businesses shows about 131 items, including pharmaceuticals and industrial chemicals, that are not being slapped by the China tariffs, as multiple companies have been able to get the products into China without paying a duty, according to Bloomberg. The unconfirmed list makes up roughly 24% of Chinese imports from the United States, worth about $40 billion. This report, of course, comes after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that China's economy is actually slowing down substantially, and added that they are the most imbalanced economy in the history of the world. He told Fox Business News host Maria Bartiromo on Morning with Maria on Thursday that we saw that he said, quote, "We saw some very poor gross domestic product numbers out of China yesterday. We're now seeing very large estimates of job growth loss from 5 to 10 million jobs over there. So the Chinese economy is slowing down substantially here. So what we will first want to see is a de-escalation." Now, keep in mind, while this is a positive sign, and this is me talking, but while this is a positive sign, don't forget, this is a regime that essentially controls everything and don't care about their people. So realistically, while this is a positive sign, we still need to make sure that we still need to watch it carefully, because who knows what can happen, especially when you have, again, a regime that doesn't give a crap about its people. So this is a positive sign. We'll see how it goes. All right. Last article of the day. Well, when you thought that just because the Democrats weren't in power anymore that we would hear some of the crazy BS narratives go away. Nope. That California liar. And no, I'm not talking about Kamala Harris. I'm talking about senator who never should have been a senator, who is a censured House of Representatives individual, Adam Schiff, has put forth yet another assault weapons ban. Yes, he is standing in front of the cameras pushing what he is considering to be a winning proposition with the assault weapons ban. Now, keep in mind, of course, this has virtually no chance of actually becoming law, according to The Hill. So The Hill detailed the the ban's dim prospects. It simply arises from the fact that the Republican control of the White House and both chambers of Congress. They also pointed out that Schiff and his fellow Democrats pushed the ban anyway because they see it as an important marker in the gun control debate. Folks, gun control is you hit where you aim at. That's gun control. Everything else is irrelevant because of the Second Amendment. But I digress. So, yeah. Schiff made a claim with regards to it that there is a dramatic impact if you get an assault weapons ban going, even though the Department of Justice had a report which indicated that the ban couldn't be credited with any kind of reduction in crime. They were talking about the 1994 assault weapons ban, which expired in 2004, and the Justice Department clearly stated 100% that there was no discernible impact on crime. That what ended up happening is you banned assault weapons, well, then criminals just switched to something else. Criminals will just switch to something else. Yeah. Anyway. Adam Shifty Schiff trying to remain relevant when he really isn't. All right, folks. Last thing that I need to do. Okay. Coco, insert name here. Get Sean ready, because here it comes. All right, folks, it is Sean's birthday. As you all know, Sean is a featured, fantastic individual who we all love here on the American Perspective channel. He joins in with his mother and brother on one of our Pledge of Allegiance recitations that we play at the beginning of the program. We love Sean, and it is his birthday. So therefore, I personally would like to send out a special birthday message to Sean directly. Sean, buddy, this one is for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sean. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Sean, I hope you had a great day today, and I hope you're going to enjoy your peanut butter frosting, because I know how much you love that. All right. That wraps it up for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It's free. And once you are signed up and signed in, please make sure you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, or hey, even a thumbs down on all of my outlets, whether it is X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, which is Saturday, 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and that's great. That's great. And don't forget to have a wonderful morning. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.